He was trained to kill her. Instead, he healed her. In the shadows between stars, aboard a war-torn vessel drifting in silence, a human medic finds something he should never have seen: an enemy assassin, broken and bleeding, with eyes that still burn gold, despite the poison in her veins. Protocol says to turn her in. His heart says something else. As he chooses mercy over orders, a bond begins to form, not through words, but through pain shared, breath mirrored, and a pulse that begins to sink across species. But when the ship turns against them, and her mission is revealed to be far more than a simple kill order, the question is no longer what she is but who she could become. This is not just a story of survival. It's about trust born in silence. About the choice to see someone not as a weapon, but as a life worth saving. Stay with us, and ask yourself, would you risk everything for someone you were taught to fear? The outer hull of Aegis Dawn still trembled from the recent skirmish, the ship's superstructure groaning like an injured beast. Cracks in the blast plating vented trails of vapor into the vacuum beyond, where stars hung silent and indifferent, their cold light piercing the debris-choked darkness. In the narrow breach between docking corridors, a space where light flickered uncertain and silence reigned absolute, she lay. Kael'Ren. Her mission had unraveled in mere minutes. The extraction beacon failed. Her squad silenced. And now she was alone. Bleeding. Dying. The toxin lacing her bloodstream clouded her thoughts, fracturing language into static and memory into flickers. Names, orders, identities, they twisted like smoke. Her body, built for precision and silence, now trembled against scorched metal. Her blood wasn't red. It shimmered silver blue, thick and luminous, pooling in the crevices of the ruptured airlock like stardust. Each breath she took came jagged, laced with pain and the scent of oxidized metal and melting sealant foam. Her black armor, once seamless and elegant, was cracked open at the side, revealing glimpses of alien skin pulsing beneath. And then, movement. Heavy boots, careful but deliberate. A human form approached through the flickering haze, silhouetted against emergency strobes. Lieutenant Arden Vale, combat medic, protocol officer, but more than that, a man worn thin by the weight of duty. He should have raised his weapon. He should have called it in, locked down the airlock, activated quarantine barriers. That was the rule. The standing order. The directive etched into every soldier's training. But he didn't. Instead, he dropped to his knees beside the fallen figure. His gloved hands hovered over the wound, a breach in alien tissue, torn along the ribline, glowing faintly from within. Her breathing was rapid, shallow. Her face, obscured beneath a cracked visor, turned weakly toward him. Not a monster. A being in pain. Arden reached into his medpack and pulled out a vial of Nanogel, experimental, volatile, not yet cleared for cross-species use. The fluid inside shimmered pale blue, like frost under moonlight. He hesitated. Then, with a breath, he uncapped it. The gel hissed as it met her wound. Instantly, it began to pulse, reacting to her alien biology with unpredictable energy. Her spine arched, a low, distorted groan erupting from her throat. Her fingers, alone and twitching, clawed at the deck. Arden moved to stabilize her. Too late. With terrifying speed, Kael'Ren lunged. Her arm shot up, armor scraping against the bulkhead, fingers curling around his throat. Her golden eyes flared open, wild and unfocused, swirling with neural static. She snarled, lips curled back, somewhere between a scream and a language she could no longer control. For a moment, Arden saw his death written in her gaze. But he didn't reach for his sidearm. He leaned in closer. Calm. Measured. His voice cut through the chaos, low and firm. "You're not my enemy right now. You're a life I can save." Her grip trembled, wavered, then loosened. She collapsed back against the scorched deck with a soft exhale, her eyes fluttering shut as the nanogel worked its unpredictable miracle knitting tissue, slowing her heart rate, anchoring her to the present. Arden looked down at her, this weapon of war lying shattered at his feet. And something inside him shifted. In that quiet, fractured corridor, lit only by flickering lights and the ghostly shimmer of alien blood, the first thread of impossible trust was born. Beneath the humming arteries of Aegis Dawn, buried in forgotten sublevels sealed after an old viral breach, there existed a place few remembered and fewer dared enter. The subdeck medbay. Its air smelled of stale antiseptic and metal long since oxidized, where the lights above flickered in erratic pulses like a heartbeat stuttering in the dark. Rows of dust-caked cryobeds lined the walls, their biometric sensors dead but not cold. A whisper of wind moaned through fractured vents, as if the ship itself mourned something long lost. Here, in this secret hollow beneath protocol's gaze, Arden Vale hid what should have never been saved. Kael'Ren lay inside a cracked stasis cradle, her black armor peeled back at the flank where the wound still shimmered faintly. The nanogel, now merged with her alien DNA, no longer simply healed. It evolved. The gel had seeped beyond her cells, weaving into neural fibers, threading through her brain's sensory map. What was foreign had become intimate. When Arden adjusted a biosensor, her breath hitched. When he steadied her trembling hand, she felt his pulse in her own skin. Nights passed in silence, broken only by the soft hiss of coolant pipes and the electric tick of monitoring readouts. But inside her mind, there was no silence. Kael'Ren's thoughts fractured with invasive flashes, training rooms lit in sterile white, cold hands strapping her down as synthetic voices whispered commands: "Do not hesitate. Do not question. Pain corrects error." Every time her breath caught, Arden was there. With steady hands. With warm eyes. With no orders. One evening, she woke from a tremor, limbs locked, breath shallow. Arden had placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Not to hold her down but to anchor her. And in that touch, she felt it. A rhythm not her own. Soft. Human. Vulnerable. A heartbeat. By the time she could sit up, she no longer looked like the being who'd staggered into that ruined airlock. Her muscles had adapted, fine-tuned by the gel. Her skin bore subtle patterns, tracer lines of silver biolight, a map of where humanity now lived inside her. She watched Arden with eyes that once saw him only as a target. He told her stories then. About a brother named Kael'Ren lost in a battle near the asteroid colonies. How the Navy said the wreckage was unrecoverable. How he never got to say goodbye. She listened. In silence first. Then in fragments of her own language, Urex tonal glyphs, taught through motion, tone, and touch. She showed him how to speak it. He showed her what grief looked like when no one was watching. And then, one night, as he adjusted the energy feeds humming beneath her cot, she leaned forward closer than she'd ever allowed anyone and whispered, "You touch me and I don't feel fear. I feel unfinished." She wasn't sure what the word meant in his tongue, but she saw how it caught in his breath. How his eyes softened without losing their edge. But trust, even in silence, leaves footprints. Commander Thorne, sharp-eyed and colder than the void outside, intercepted a biometric ghost signal from the subdeck. Too human to be alien. Too alien to be human. An override was issued. Firewalls flickered. Security nodes blinked awake. Lockdown initiated. Sirens screamed through the lower decks like dying stars. Red lights pulsed along the corridors. Aegis Dawn groaned as systems locked in sequence sector by sector, door by door. Up above, the crew whispered of traitors and infiltrators. Down below, Arden turned to Kael'Ren. Their brief sanctuary dissolving around them. The deck vibrated beneath their feet. The silence between them heavy. Unspoken. Then she said, simply, "They've found us." And for the first time, she reached for his hand. The lockdown tightened like a noose. Bulkhead by bulkhead, Aegis Dawn sealed itself in silent, mechanical obedience. Motion sensors bloomed to life in the ceiling panels, their lenses glowing amber. Warning glyphs flickered across corridor screens. The ship's hum changed lower, tenser as if it too had turned against them. Kael'Ren stood with her back to the curved medbay wall, her body tense but steady, like a blade still sheathed but vibrating with memory. Her golden eyes tracked the overhead lights as they dimmed into alert mode, casting her face in a warlike red. Arden was already moving. Silent. Focused. He shoved a sterile cart against the airlock door, then snapped open a medpack and began stripping it for tools. Breath tight. Movements exact. "We don't have long," he muttered. Kael'Ren didn't answer. Her head tilted slightly, her eyes closed, listening not to sound, but to something deeper. The gel still coursed through her. Still linked her heartbeat to his. A soft thrum in her blood told her how fast his fear was building. But she didn't feel fear. Not for herself. Only for him. Then the voice came piercing the subdeck over the intercom like a blade through water. "Lieutenant Vale. This is Commander Thorn. You are harboring a hostile entity." The voice was flat. Devoid of warmth. Protocol in every syllable. "You are in direct violation of Articles 17 through 31. Surrender now and submit to tribunal detainment." Arden didn't flinch. His hands moved faster, rerouting power from the stasis pod to the auxiliary airlock. A gambit. A delay. Kael'Ren stepped forward, the light catching on the tracer lines beneath her skin, faint silver veins where once there was only shadow. "You can fight your ship," she said softly. "I'm not," Arden replied. "I'm fighting what it's becoming." From the shadows of memory, she heard again the voices of her makers. "You will never belong to them. Mercy is weakness. Failure is death." She looked at him, at Arden, with sweat on his brow and grief behind his eyes, and realized they had been wrong. This wasn't weakness. This was resistance. The door frame rattled. Outside, the stomp of boots. The hiss of power armor charging. Security detail was here. Armed. Ready. Thorn's voice returned, sharper this time. "This is your final warning. Open the door, Lieutenant." Arden paused. His hand hovered over the manual override. Kael'Ren stepped in front of him. Her gaze was steady, but there was something flickering beneath it. Something human. Something trembling and new. "I was trained to kill you," she said. "I was designed for that. I had your name embedded in my vision systems." Arden met her eyes. "But you didn't." "No," she whispered. "I chose not to." The door blasted inward, metal shrieking as thermal charges melted the frame. A wall of soldiers stood in the smoke, visors glowing, rifles raised. And in front of them, Commander Thorn. He stepped forward, face carved in steel. "Stand down," he said. Arden stood between him and Kael'Ren. "No." Thorn's brow twitched. "She's a weapon. She's alive. She's a threat." Arden's voice was calm. "So was I. Before someone save me. The soldiers hesitated. A flicker of uncertainty rippled through their formation. Kael'Ren took a slow breath, and as she stepped into the light, her bioluminescent scars glowed in faint pulses, soft and strange, like a heartbeat in starlight. Then she knelt, unarmed, defiant in stillness. And beside her, Arden lowered his weapon. Not in surrender but in solidarity. In the quiet that followed, Thorn's authority cracked not with shouts or violence, but with silence. A silence too heavy to ignore. One soldier lowered their rifle. Then another. The break had come not through war, but through choice. Kael'Ren reached for Arden's hand, and this time, he was the one who trembled. Outside the ruined medbay door, orders screamed in fractured voices. But inside, something older than war, older than protocol took root. Trust. Darkness fell over the Aegis Dawn's lower decks like a tidal eclipse. The breach left by the security incursion still hissed steam and ozone into the ruined corridor. Sirens had dulled into ambient groans, warning tones overridden, ignored, or silenced by uncertainty. No one gave chase. Not yet. Arden led Kael'Ren through the labyrinth of maintenance crawlways where coolant dripped like cold rain from fractured pipes, and gravity moaned through warped conduits. He held a flashlight between his teeth, his hands occupied stabilizing her every few steps. Her body was adapting, but still unstable. The gel surged in waves beneath her skin, twitching through muscles, feeding tissue, and occasionally misfiring into tremors. At times, her breath staggered. At others, she seemed to hum with unseen energy. "We're almost there," he said. He wasn't sure if he meant the med chamber or something else. Kael'Ren didn't answer. She didn't have to. Their connection had deepened, gone beyond neural echoes. Now, when he touched her, he didn't just feel her body respond. He felt her emotions. Flickers of things she didn't yet have words for. Fear. Gratitude. Guilt. Wonder. They reached the chamber, a long-forgotten engineering core access room, wrapped in layers of shielding and fireproof plating. A place where no one came unless ordered. The perfect place to disappear. Arden powered up the auxiliary console with a bypass rig. Lights flickered on, revealing glassy control panels and rust-flecked railings. Kael'Ren stood at the center of the room, her reflection multiplied in the polished steel. She looked like something sacred. Or dangerous. Or both. He approached, placing a hand gently on her arm. "You're shaking." She looked down. His pulse was racing in both of them. "I feel everything," she said, voice thin but steady. "Not just mine. Yours." He nodded. "It's the gel. It's sinking us. Deeper than biology." She turned to him then slowly, deliberately. Her eyes shimmered like liquid gold under the flickering emergency lights. "And you're not afraid?" "I am," he admitted. "But not of you?" The console beeped an incoming transmission, encrypted, and rerouted. Arden answered. "Ronan," came the voice of his old squad mate, ragged with static. "You're off manifest. Command wants answers." "What the hell is going on down there?" Arden hesitated. "I found someone," he said. "She's not what they said she was." Vale. "Tell me you didn't. I need time. She's hurt. And she saved me, Ronan. When she didn't have to." Silence hummed through the channel. "Then, I trust you. But get out of there. Thorn's going to bring the hammer." Kael'Ren moved to the viewport, tiny and fogged with condensation. Outside, The stars wheeled slowly, distant as dreams. She placed a hand to the glass. "I was sent to kill," she whispered. "But I never felt more alive than now, when I am choosing not to." Behind her, Arden stepped closer. Close enough to feel the heat from her skin, the tension in her breath. "You're not alone anymore?" She turned, fingers brushing his chest plate, feeling the pulse beneath. "You show mercy like a weapon," she murmured. "And it cuts deeper than any blade I've known." He took her hand, carefully. "Then let's make it our armor." The ship trembled suddenly. From the console, a new alert flared, a kill order. Her name. Her coordinates. Elimination authorized. Kael'Ren saw it first. She stepped forward and, without hesitation, plunged a blade into the data port, severing the feed. Sparks sprayed upward, casting firelight across her face. Arden flinched. "That was our last uplink." "They won't track us through that," she said. "But we're blind now?" She looked at him, fierce and certain. "Then we run on instinct." The corridor behind them roared with motion boots, shouts, charged weapons humming to life. Arden drew his sidearm. Kael'Ren placed a hand on his wrist and shook her head. "No. Let me show them who I am, now." He hesitated. Then nodded. Together, they moved into the corridor's threshold. And side by side, they stepped into the unknown toward a future unwritten, guided only by the rhythm they now shared, a pulse between worlds. When the doors finally open and the tribunal delivers its judgment, the choice has already been made. Not by protocol. Not by power. But by a medic who stood between the past and something unknown. By an assassin who dared to feel. And in that fragile space between war and peace, between duty and instinct, they didn't just survive. They changed. Now, with their bodies bound by science and their hearts bound by trust, they walk into uncharted stars, not as soldier and assassin, but as something new. If mercy can override programming. If love can echo through alien blood. What else might be possible out there? Let us know. What would you have done in Arden's place? And if Kael'Ren were real, would you trust her? Or fear her? The story doesn't end here. It only begins.